Support comes from
Entergy provides much more than power. We support science and engineering at local schools to build a brighter path to better jobs and help prepare the next generation. Because together, we power life. Entergy.
additional support provided by the Fred B. and Ruth B. Ziegler Foundation and the Ziegler Art Museum located in Jennings City Hall. The museum focuses on emerging Louisiana artists and is an historical and cultural center for Southwest Louisiana. And the Foundation for Excellence in Louisiana Public Broadcasting, with support from viewers like you.
All this is a way to cook up some political news for themselves and their political agenda, which is to take me out of office.
A calm election cycle? Not so fast.
And there's a lot of myth about people that if you've been to prison, you can never vote. That's not true.
Clearing up misconceptions about Louisiana voting.
They're not really thinking of consequences. Their brain is not there.
How defining your selfie teaches social media survival. Hi, everyone. I'm Andre Morrow. Much more on those stories in a moment on this week's edition of SWI. But first, the shutdown of the Sunshine Bridge in Donaldsonville has the Department of Transportation scrambling for solutions. Here's what we know. The bridge is closed indefinitely. It was hit by a barge about 3 a.m. Friday. DOTD says the crash caused major damage to a main support beam. What's needed to repair it and how long repairs would take are not yet known. For now, detours are in place, a second ferry will help move traffic, and damage inspections will continue on the bridge. Now here are other headlines making news across the state. The state will pay almost $150,000 to end a sexual misconduct lawsuit against former Secretary of State Tom Shedler. In addition, he will personally pay more than $18,000. The payments will resolve legal claims that he sexually harassed a woman who worked for him. The state is voiding a multi-million-dollar contract award to replace thousands of old voting machines. This after a key official in the Edwards administration found flaws in the vendor selection. Secretary of State Kyle Ardoin's office will have to redo the bid process for the lucrative work if this decision by the state's chief procurement officer stands. The decision to void has gone verbal, with Ardoin blaming Governor John Bel Edwards, saying the tossing of the contract award reeks of old-school Louisiana politics. The Edwards camp calls the accusations absurd. The Democrat Edwards now has his first Republican challenger for next year's governor's race. Baton Rouge businessman Eddie Rispone filed papers and says he's ready to spend millions to try and unseat Edwards. Rispone is founder of an industrial contracting company and says his reasons for running for office are simple. He can do a better job. Seeing these pictures of Hurricane Michael's total destruction in Mexico Beach, Florida, east of Panama City on the Panhandle, leaves no doubt why Louisiana is rushing major help there. Dozens of emergency personnel with boats, ambulances, and other necessities will assist in recovery. Michael, with peak winds of 150 miles per hour and central pressure of 919 millibars, now ranks among the top 4 most powerful hurricanes ever to hit the U.S. Louisiana-based Amedisys, a force in home health and hospice care, says it's about to become the nation's third largest hospice provider. This after the purchase of a nationwide firm, Compassionate Care, that is based in New Jersey. Now, just a moment ago, we told you that the Secretary of State's voting machine contract is now voided. They'll have to start over from scratch. That major news comes just days after the first public appearance of the lead candidates running for that office. It was at the Baton Rouge Press Club. Former State Senator A.G. Crow was not there, but the other 5 talked about their experience, cybersecurity, and integrity, and at least one pointed fingers at the man who is on the job now. The integrity question struck a particular nerve. Tom Shedler left the office under a cloud of sexual harassment allegations and for the way he handled the process of buying new voting machines. Ardoin also took a hit after he took over for Shedler. The state reprimanded him for intervening in the awarding of a contract for the machines. He called it a misunderstanding. Some of his competitors called it something else.
They want the job I have. Instead of, they are solely trying to create bologna out of a bologna sandwich.
Well, here's some mayo with that bologna. When you testify in front of House and Governmental Committee and you give somebody your word, keep your word, then the next time around, we won't have to doubt it.
Turkey Creek Mayor Heather Cloud says her reasons for seeking the office are personal.
My motive is because I care about Louisiana elections. In 2014, my election was stolen from me because of voter fraud. Mentally handicapped people's votes were bought. Inflated voter rolls across the state were utilized to unseat me, and I had to wage war on state government. And I have not dropped the ball carrying the torch of election integrity since I won my right for a new election, and I will not drop the ball of election integrity in the state as Secretary of State.
Ardoin says following Shedler's departure, he created a tough sexual harassment policy, the strictest in state government, he says.
Our motto in our office is you see something, say something. That's how we've made the department much better, and we focused on the rights of employees to make it a safe environment. Thank you.
While Ardoin boasts of his experience, Renee Fontenot-Free explains what sets her apart.
I am the only candidate in this ballot that has never run for office in my life. However, my experience makes me uniquely qualified to run the Secretary of State's office since I've been a public servant for the last 28 years. I'm an attorney. I've been with the Attorney General's office for 24 years, and the other 4 I was the first Assistant Secretary of State.
State Representative Julie Stokes has a plan to improve the office from the ground up.
One that will remove scandal from the office, protect taxpayers by making efficiencies in that office, and make sure that elections are kept safe and secure. We're going to protect elections, not only through a good internal control structure, because I'm sure that that's not the most exciting thing you've ever heard, but by making sure that we stick to good principles about keeping our rolls clean and keeping our elections safe. Finally, we're going to create jobs because we're going to be the best friend of business.
It's important that we keep partisan politics out of that office. And my pledge, and I have been saying this over and over throughout the state, the decisions I make will be made on what's in the best interest of the people of this state, not what's in Renee Free's best interest or any political party's best interest. It is an administrative job, and I'm uniquely qualified to handle it.
Keeping elections secure from cyber attacks may be the single most important concern for voters. The candidates, one by one, each emphasized how their role would keep the democratic voting process safe and secure.
These breaches in election integrity, whether it's cybersecurity or it's vote buying or it's utilizing bloated voter rolls, all instill low turnout and zero confidence among the voters.
Representative Rick Edmonds says he'd create a cybercrime division, and it would be his first priority if elected.
I believe that cybercrime is here to stay. I think you believe that as well. All of our Secretary of States will be dealing with this issue. It's not going to go away. I don't think we have to be alarmists, but I think we have to be realists. All of our agencies are being hacked on a daily basis. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to reorganize the entire division. We're going to have to start from top to bottom.
Now, as we mentioned, this is a special election to fill the remainder of former Secretary Shedler's original term. That means the winner of this race will have to do it all over again next year in 2019 when the next term starts. Also on the ballot in Louisiana, every voter across the country, except those in D.C. and Puerto Rico, will be choosing a congressperson next month. In our state, those races are relatively uncompetitive. But LPB's Kelly Spires says the midterms are worth paying attention to, and why is that?
That's right. Well, I spoke with PBS NewsHour Capitol Hill correspondent Lisa Desjardins. She says how races nationwide shake out could have implications for the role the Louisiana delegation plays in House leadership. Joining us now is Lisa Desjardins. All of our congressional races here in Louisiana are pretty non-competitive, so I'd like to start by asking why that might be. What effect does a strong incumbent have on the race?
You have strong incumbents in all 6 of Louisiana's congressional districts. You also have a very strong feeling toward the president in 5 of those districts. Remember, President Trump won Louisiana, of course. I know you and your viewers know, by about 20 points. What you have in Louisiana is a lack of sort of purple districts. All of your districts are either very conservative or lean heavily conservative, or in one case, lean Democratic. So usually you see those competitive fights and you see incumbents in trouble in districts where there's more middle ground. And in Louisiana, districts tend to go one way or the other.
Majority Whip Steve Scalise is from Louisiana, so he's of a special interest to us. I'm wondering how the outcome of the midterms across the country might affect his career.
I think anyone watching politics and watching the midterm election and the House of Representatives is watching Steve Scalise right now. We know that Kevin McCarthy, representative of California, right now the number 2 Republican in the House, has said he wants to run for Speaker should Republicans keep control of the House. But that is a very big question. And the truth is, behind the scenes right now, most Republicans still think they are likely to lose that control, even though they think that margin is starting to be a little bit smaller, that their losses will be less heavy than they anticipated, at least right now. But if that comes to pass, that Republicans lose control of the chamber, then the seats they will have lost, going back to our first conversation, are the more moderate seats. Those are people who are more likely to support Kevin McCarthy. The people who are more likely to support Steve Scalise are the ones who are the most stable, the most likely to win back their seats. A lot of people think because of that, Steve Scalise will be able to get more votes potentially than Kevin McCarthy.
You mentioned the House may go Democrat, and we have a Democratic congressman who's also one to watch in leadership. The chair of the Black Caucus is Cedric Richmond, also from New Orleans. Might he have leadership ambitions?
It is a very big question right now. Cedric Richmond is very well liked. He's someone who has taken very firm stances sort of internally that in general have helped him in a time when some others who have shown ambition have fallen. He continues to rise. However, right now, his name is not yet in the hat for any specific Democratic leadership position. He seems to be trying to really navigate on behalf of the Congressional Black Caucus, as you said, and to sort of watch out and make sure that those members of the Black Caucus are able to get leadership positions throughout. But I think the thing to watch, Kelly, is how much, if Democrats do take over the House, how wide is their margin? How many of the current leaders, the top 3 in the Democratic leadership, who have been there a long time, how many of them retain those leadership positions? If any of them leave, that could create an opening for someone like Cedric Richmond. So far, he has not announced for any positions, but yeah, absolutely, he's someone to watch. And even if not this year, 2 years, 4 years down the road, he's someone who seems like he could be in Congress for a while. He's in his 40s still. I think he's someone to watch for the long term and the short term.
Thank you again so much for your time, Lisa.
Oh, my pleasure. Anytime.
Now, Kelly, you also did some research on voting rights this week, and what did you find there?
That's right, Andre. I found that there are some common misconceptions about voting rights in Louisiana. It's something a lot of us take for granted. Every couple years, or maybe more often, we drive up to our polling place, maybe on the way to work, and cast our ballot. But it's not so easy for everyone. Checo Yancey is a voting rights advocate with Voice of the Experienced and Voters Organized to Educate.
That is my job, to get people educated about the voting rights and try to get former incarcerated people involved in what we're doing.
Though his groups concentrate on advocating for voting rights of formerly incarcerated people, there are issues that apply to everyone trying to vote. Step 1, Yancey says.
First of all, you got to go register, make sure that you're on the books.
In Louisiana, you can register to vote online, which puts us ahead of other states as far as accessibility.
And it's so simple now. There's an app that you can put on your phone called Go Vote, G-A-U-X. And You can put it in, put your name, put your address in. It'll tell you what your status is, or you can go down to the Secretary of State's office or the registered voter's office.
One reason it's important to make sure you're registered is that it's the Secretary of State's job to purge voter rolls, to make sure that there aren't ineligible folks registered to vote.
If people don't vote, including you and anybody else, not just former incarcerated people, if you don't vote for a certain amount of time and you don't vote 4 or 5 times in an election, guess what happened? You are purged from the rolls.
Right.
Then you have to go back and start the process all over again.
The United States Commission on Civil Rights has advisory committees in every state. Louisiana put out a report highlighting issues the state's residents face trying to vote. The report recommends Louisiana adopt a policy in place in 17 other states, same-day voter registration. Though it's recognized as a way to improve voter engagement, opponents of the practice cite concerns of voter fraud. On the day of voting, the first set of issues comes from where people vote.
The precinct change, we had a lot of floods here in Baton Rouge and across the state. So precinct change, so people now need to make sure that they can check what their precinct is.
The report highlighted how few polling locations there are. As of December 2017, there were 3,904 precincts and 2,068 polling locations in Louisiana. That means there were on average 2 precincts served by 1 polling location. More than 100 polling locations have closed since 2012. The report says closing a polling location saves the state only about $1,300 per location. Some misconceptions arise around photo IDs. Though it is highly recommended that you bring a picture ID with you to vote, if you forget it, you can still vote.
And you can fill out an affidavit. You can ask to fill out an affidavit and you swear that you are that person. For some reason, maybe the flood, maybe whatever, you've forgotten your ID or whatever. But you can then fill out the affidavit and you can go vote. That's your saying who you are.
Now, felons specifically have issues voting, mostly arising from the bureaucracies surrounding getting out of prison. Yes, felons who have completed their sentence can vote in Louisiana, another way the state is more progressive than others.
There's a lot of myth about people that if you've been to prison, you can never vote. That's not true.
A lot of formerly incarcerated felons are on probation or parole, so they're still technically serving a sentence and cannot vote. Yet. When that law was enacted in 1975, it only affected about 2,000 people, but until a recent change, over 70,000 Louisiana residents were unable to vote despite having served all terms of their prison confinement. This is in addition to about 30,000 people serving terms currently. So, in total, over 100,000 Louisiana residents were unable to vote due to a felony conviction. According to Yancey's group, 30 to 35% of those denied the right to vote never went to prison at all, but are instead serving sentences consistently entirely of probation. With those stats, Yancey's group helped pass a new law.
If someone is on probation, parole, and what is called on paper, you're under supervision, you now, if you've been out 5 years and you've had no problems, come March 1st, 2019, you can register to vote. I will be one of those people that can now register to vote. I've been out of prison now 15 years.
Studies show if formerly incarcerated people are given the right to vote, they are more integrated in society and less likely to recidivate or go back to prison.
I was punished, I was corrected, rehabilitated, and now I'm part of the community. So why not? I can vote. I pay my taxes. So that was the thing, taxation without representation.
So go exercise your right to vote. The deadline to register is October 16th. You can do so online at that app Mr. Yancey mentioned. That's GEAUX vote.com.
Yeah, surprise the people predicting it and get the numbers up. There you can also educate yourself about what exactly is going to be on your ballot, including those constitutional amendments that we talked about last week. Thanks, Kelly. When 2 Baton Rouge therapists began counseling increasing numbers of young girls distraught over the pressures of social media, they realized this wasn't an isolated problem. So they sprung into action to get ahead of this growing issue. That was 4 years ago. Since then, their Define Your Selfie workshops have become a hit while serving a need. The most recent workshop took place a week ago at Port Allen High. Immediate gratification. It's no coincidence that it exists in intended harmony in a solar system of smartphones, apps, and social media outlets. There's a constant rush of information that is shared, and it's pretty much a given that if you share, a responsive share will come back to you. It's a scenario that can be a beautiful thing, where if you want something right now, you can have it right now. Except when that symphony of interaction careens off its tracks. It was that downside that led a pair of Baton Rouge therapists to take action. That's how their Define Your Selfie workshop was born. Their program has a specific method they say makes it click.
It catches young people's attention without being authoritative or scary or medicinal or sterile, so it meets them where they are at their age by delivering what we feel is a very creative approach to be able to kind of speaking their language.
Speaking their language means spelling out clearly the responsibilities that come with sharing yourself with the world. That if you choose to engage in sexting, be aware of the consequences that may come.
They're at this stage where, psychologically they're invincible. So in their brains, they're not really thinking of consequences. Their brain is not there. We'll see a lot of young people who are being cyberbullied, or they'll have very, very low self-esteem, and it's directly related to them not having enough likes on social media, or they'll compare followers with friends and with peers, and they automatically feel less than, and they attribute it to there's something being wrong with themselves because of how their social media appearance is, or the status of their social media appearance, I should say.
So they ask them to think about their authentic self and about promoting a positive self-image, which in reality comes from within in the first place.
When we're interacting and engaging with the students with this presentation, really be consciously aware and actively listening to what the feedback they're giving us in the moment is.
And do you feel like you're reaching them?
I do. I think that we are having the conversation that other authoritative figures are trying to have but aren't really breaking through that wall. I think it's about using, whether it's language or content that's relevant and relatable, and giving them the opportunity to respond in a very free and open way that they're not going to be penalized for what they say, and there's no judgment. They're all kind of have this common thread of the same feelings that go into social media, and so when they realize they're not alone with those thoughts and feelings, it just forms cohesiveness and then this internal support system that they didn't even realize that they had.
I sat down with two of those Port Allen students and their school advisor, and they opened up about what happened personally to them.
There was a friend I had, and he went to school, but he moved to Louisiana, and I thought it was him, but his page got hacked and I was unaware. And he was texting me, and he was asking for normal pictures, and because I thought it was my friend, I would send pictures of me going to school, or we're going to the pool or the park, or having family events. And it's kind of like he lured me to trust him, and because I'm thinking it was my friend, I did. It wasn't until he started asking for inappropriate pictures where it was kind of like this isn't what he would normally do. And it kind of worried me.
And how old were you?
I was 14. It wasn't until he was kind of threatening me by saying he would kill himself, or that he would kill my parents, or threaten me, that it went too far. So I went to my mom and my dad and my teachers at school. And then we found out that, it was, and we also contacted his parents and him. He came down to Houston, and we talked, and he was like, that wasn't him. He hasn't been on the social media at all since he moved down there because he was so busy with school. When we found out it was somebody else, my mom wanted charges to be pressed, and we blocked him, and I kind of had to turn off social media until everything, the dust cleared and settled.
I
was on social media, I got messages from people I didn't know asking me to do stuff. So that's why I'm finally off of social media. My mom wants to protect me and shelter me from that.
And you say do stuff. Can you describe any of that?
Just stuff that you're not supposed to be doing. Okay. Or just life in general is hard, and we don't really need that pressure in life because we're already getting pressure from school, parents' expectation.
What do you make of this phenomenon?
I definitely think it's a generation that they're in. When I was growing up, social media was not a big thing, but now it's everywhere. And so everyone wants to be seen and heard and try to get points any way they can. So they do try to build those trusting relationships. And then as soon as you do something, they want to put it out for the world to see, kind of like a badge of honor, like, look at me. And we're just in the look at me era.
With social media and TVs, movies, everything is influencing girls to look like one thing and just close off their opinions because it doesn't matter. But that's not true. Like my mom says, she says you gotta protect your eyes, your ears, and your mind from all of that that's going on today.
Yeah.
Those Port Allen students, by the way, told me they felt heard at the workshop to find your selfie. We thank them for helping us out with this story. The 5th round of a job training program called the North Baton Rouge Industrial Training Initiative kicks off next Tuesday, October 16th. Baton Rouge Community College partners with local industry leaders to create a training to job pipeline. Courses include pipe fitting, welding, and electrical work. Gerard Malassaw is the Executive Director of Workforce Education at Baton Rouge Community College.
There's a drug test, a background check, and a basic education test. Once they get through that, we'll call them to be interviewed by one of our contracting partners. And we get through the interview process, they'll start training the 3rd week of January.
And everyone, that's our show for this week. Remember, you can watch LPB on demand on your phone or tablet with our LPB Anywhere app. The download is free from your app store. You can catch LPB news and public affairs shows and other Louisiana programs that you've come to enjoy over the years. And please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. For everyone here at Louisiana Public Broadcasting, I'm Andre Morrow. Thanks for watching. Until next time, that's the state we're in.
Support comes from
Entergy provides much more than power. We support science and engineering at local schools to build a brighter path to better jobs and help prepare the next generation. Because together, we power life. Entergy.
Additional support provided by the Fred B. and Ruth B. Ziegler Foundation and the Ziegler Art Museum located in Jennings City Hall. The museum focuses on emerging Louisiana artists and is an historical and cultural center for Southwest Louisiana. And the Foundation for Excellence in Louisiana Public Broadcasting, with support from viewers like you.